but before we go to what I assume is the most nightmarish fever dream that I have ever had, AEW Dynamite, you've got some classic audio for a kind of a palate cleanser, a little thing between courses.
That's right, and this went over so well on the drive-through, so we're going to do it again where we briefly hear some classic wrestling audio, maybe something you've heard, something you haven't heard, and we hear it in its context and either laugh at it or listen to it and then talk about it. But let's go to this. From December 31st, 1983, WWF All-Star Wrestling, Victory Corner, with Vince McMahon as the guest.
In a moment, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take you to Associate Publisher Robert DeBoard and Victory's Corner. Before we do, we'd like to state that the views expressed in Victory Corner, those of Victory Magazine alone, and its Associate Publisher, Robert DeBoard. With that in mind, we take you now to Victory Corner, and if I do say so myself, his very special.
Their music was so cheesy back then.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Victory's Corner. This week, we're honored to have with us the voice of professional wrestling, Vince McMahon. Vince, a lot of our readers want to know, because of how close you are to professional wrestling, what you see on the horizon for 1984. Talk to us a little bit, tell us a little bit about what you see coming up, who you see might, what titles you might see changing hands.
Again, from an announcer standpoint, I must say from a fan standpoint, because I consider myself one of the greatest wrestling fans ever as far as interest in professional wrestling is concerned, I see 1984 as being perhaps the most turbulent year in professional wrestling. I think that with the recent happenings that we have seen as of late, it would point toward a direction of a lot of turbulence, a lot of unusual things happening in professional wrestling, and it would probably open the gates for a virtual flood of wrestling talent into the World Wrestling Federation, the likes of which we've never seen before. I think that many things would point to an indication that indeed the possibility of the turbulence that I mentioned would certainly be forthcoming.
We're all looking forward to another year of professional wrestling and your continued great announcing. With that, we'll go back to ringside. Thank you very much, Vince.
With that, we'll go back to you. What do you think of Vince talking about what he sees ahead for 1984, the year his expansion went into overdrive?
Well, and that's the thing is, I guess we should have mentioned before we even played the clip that almost nobody, 99.8 or 9% of the people watching wrestling, and especially watching WWF wrestling at that time, thought that Vince was just the announcer. He was not publicly named the owner of the company or the, blah, blah, blah. His father had been, but there was nothing at that point. Hey, Jack Tunney was the president of the WWF back then, or was he yet? Who was the president?
Shinma.
That's so they didn't even use the president on TV because it was still one of the deals they made to get the Inoki booking deal, right? But anyway, they didn't know who he was, and there he just did a complete double speak that nobody could have interpreted as meaning anything because it was just gaga at the time. But what he was actually doing was saying, yeah, it's going to be turbulent because I'm going to fuck everybody's fucking business up.
Yeah, why would he put this on TV? Who's this message to?
I think it was just to him. I think he just said, yeah, I'll do this. And he's saying, I'm going to raid all the talent. I'm going to expand. I'm going to go after everybody else's promotion, the turbulence, the influx of talent to the WWE. He knew exactly what he was going to do, and he said it there, but it was so incomprehensible the way he said it that you would only understand it with the historical knowledge.
The turbulence will lead to an influx of talent, the likes of which we've never seen, and things that are very unusual for wrestling. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. He told us.
It's weird. That's the weird thing about it. It's almost like, watch this. I'm going to go say, I'm going to say it without saying it.
And who was interviewing him?
Robert DeBoard.
He was one of the early incarnation of, it was Victory Magazine, right? So Victory right. Corner.
It's supposed to be Victory Corner. If you notice, they both accidentally called
Victories.
Victory's Corner.
Because did that come from Rogers' Corner?
It was Rogers' Corner, and then when Buddy Rogers slipped backstage at the Garden before the tag match with him and Snuka against, I think, Albano and Morocco.
Yeah.
Was it Morocco? I think it was. He slipped backstage and he sued, I think, the Garden and maybe even sued the WWF. Just sued everyone that was near him when he slipped backstage. So Rogers' Corner became Victory Corner, and then Victory Corner became Piper's Pit.
Good Lord. But, well, thankfully, old DeBoard had a short run there and he had no idea what Vince was talking about. Because Vince would not have shared that with that low level of a guy, doing that incarnation of the magazine. That was all for Vince. At that time, who would have known what he was going to do? Maybe his dad didn't know the extent of it. Monsoon, probably. Arnie Skolin, maybe. I don't think Arnie would have cared, and Vince wouldn't have gone to him for a lot of help in this project. So almost nobody knew what he was going to do. Did Hogan know at that point?
Absolutely. There were certain people who did know because.
Well, but I'm saying, at what point was the Japan trip? What was the timeline of that?
This is December 31st, 83. So he already had Hogan locked up a few months before that.
I'm sorry. I thought I misheard because I only have one ear, as I believe I mentioned before. I thought it was August 83. If it was December, yeah, Hogan was on board.
The December, he's already started the process of everything. He already has Jim Barnett by his side. He already has plans to go into every territory.
Barnett knew, obviously.
Of course. This is 3 months after Vince Sr. and Barnett quit the NWA.
Yeah, so we've established that maybe 5 or 6 people would have known what he was talking about when he put that on his television show.
Again, it's such a bizarre move for him to do that. Just, we could have a wrestler on there, or we could have me on there to say nothing in a weird way that no one will understand, but I've said it.
That was a promotional version of the old Danny Hodge deal. Where Hodge and workouts, they would bring aspiring pro wrestlers, college athletes, or tough guy, whoever wanted to be a wrestler. And one of the people to work out with would be Hodge. And they said Hodge would tell them exactly what he was going to do to them, how he was going to take them down, what hold he was going to put them in. So they knew ahead of time, and then he'd do it anyway. And there wasn't anything they could do about it. So that's what Vince just did. He told us, kind of, and there wasn't anything anybody could do about it.
Well, that was our classic wrestling moment, classic wrestling break in between all the modern wrestling today.